Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking, and a warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. And look where we're passing today. Yep, it's this place again. It's been quite some time, hasn't it? Or at least it has been for me. I forget if everyone else actually went to these or not. But yeah, we were all away for the June quiz, and I at least wasn't around for the July one. So not entirely sure, but as it turns out, even though there is one last imminent flight, which I will discuss next week, as much as I'm legally allowed to, we managed. There was the stars aligned, and we were finally able to actually show up for one. I almost forgot that it was even happening on the start of the month, but there you go. And did it go well? Well, since I have to talk about this anyway, yeah, well, we were the same five as normal, so my cousin wasn't around. And actually, as it turns out, there were many people who were around, because there was apparently an issue with the booking system that my mum found out, and what happened was it looked like the event had passed for booking, for this month, and so she contacted the establishment or the hosts, one of the two, and then actually they realized, like, oh no, this is not good. Unfortunately, the usual winning team still managed to book their spot, so clearly they must have felt the same thing, or were constantly refreshing the page, or whatever it is that they were up to, something of that nature. And all that meant was there were fewer groups this time than there were originally. I think, there were actually just only 8 of us this time, which I know that place looks incredibly small, and it absolutely is, but that's not usual. So in fact, I think we had all of our scores read out, actually, which, is somewhat painful for some, and, considerably better for others. And as usual, we were told, it was all very close, but then also with clear distinctions between the different teams, which seems like a contradiction to me personally. And now I know the results. It kind of was. So yeah. I guess to summarize, this was we thought, I mean, it's great. We're all back together. It turns out there aren't as many groups. We'll see how well we do. But of course, the thing is, when all the groups that are still around, or all the groups that are still around, are the heavy hitters, doesn't particularly matter. Although one of them, I think, changed their name to About Time We Won. They came third, by the way. So yeah, sometimes wishful thinking doesn't quite work out. And in our case, things didn't start out super well. Because the dingbats this time, we got through about like half of them in a timely fashion, and some of them we had, I feel like maybes and skepticisms. I was actually in charge of writing the dingbats this time, which, great vote of confidence there. And you would think that would proceed as normal, where we discuss a few ones and then get. And then, as a group we come up with the other ones, or like every now and then someone will throw out an epiphany of what they've just realised the thing was the whole time. And that is somewhat true, it's just that we didn't have as many epiphanies as before. One that stood out particularly was, that I got the credit for, was one that said, punishment, fire, bowling. So, we were thinking like, okay, what are like some words for like, punishments or something, something like, a discipline, a sanction. We were thinking synonyms, basically. And in terms of fire and bowling, my mum was very convinced that it was out. you know, as opposed to something like strike, for example, which is what I would have thought in that situation. But we went with out. Everyone seemed to like out in terms of that one. Fire ended up becoming shoot. So it's about like shoot out and stuff. And we do like, oh, a punishment, shoot out. And then of course then I got the final brain blast and said penalty shootout. And then, you know, everyone was like, oh, of all people, you thought that I was the one to get that. Which, yeah, is fair. I have been thinking, obviously, more about football in recent times than I do under normal circumstances, just in general, in life. So, who knows? But yeah, as much as I got the credit for that one, that was, you know, that was everyone. That's what the dingbats are great at, is that you're able to like still, you know, discuss things and keep going around and think about them. There are still a couple ones where I'm thinking like, you know, there are some where you don't actually, where I just wouldn't have known the phrase or something like that, but, you know, that's what the cross generations are for. Similar to the music round, actually, which surprisingly was actually one of our better ones. We were thinking in terms of, you know, of like summer songs for some reason. That was what our prediction was. You know, maybe sort of somewhere in the title, like, you know, the Summer Loving song from Greece. I forget which other ones they all threw out. Don't know if we did Summer in the City, actually. That was an oversight. Summer of '69 as well, which actually, now I'm thinking about that, my cousin actually, the one that you know sometimes joins us, I believe that he actually did a karaoke cover at one point of Summer of '69, which kind of made the rounds in our group chat. I mean, that particular cousin is somewhat notorious in the family for offering to sing and collaborate on songs and then being roundly rejected for doing so on the grounds of being a bad singer. And I was like, I don't know if I've actually heard him sing. And yeah, I did in that one. It's definitely an overblown reaction, but you know, whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I've heard him sing exactly once when he was finally able to. Also, I'm pretty sure he was drunk in that video, so I think that also, you know, reduces the bar a little bit, let's say. But anyway, aside from that, he would have known instantly about that one. But those songs never came up because the actual theme was travel. Surprisingly, in which I actually did in fact score a point for "Shut Up and Drive" by Rihanna. So I guess drive and being like the travel word in that situation, rather than I don't know, something about like a particular destination. I think one of the songs was like Norway to something, I believe. So, you know, travel being a theme. Could have gone with Dixie Chicks actually and taken the long way around. Now I think about that. But anyway, honestly, if ever in a car, that's a great song to actually play. You know, it's great for driving, I'd say. Which I think I actually did play when I was when I got on being a Spotify Jam, and on the I don't know if we mentioned that, we did that in the caravan. So yeah. Anyway, I'm rambling about other stuff. So in terms of other quiz stuff, there was the usual sports, food and drink rounds. Weirdly enough, I actually knew one of the answers to one of the sports questions, because all it was just basically, you know, what do archers tend to put their arrows in? You know, that's being a quiver. Didn't know how many V's it had, but my aunt was already writing down the result. We definitely ran into some danger of going back into our greatest, like, fatal flaw as a group of shutting down other ideas, but this time it was discussed and described, but it was done so in a much more playful manner, let's say. Particularly between my mum and my aunt, you know, the two sisters being who they are, you know, shutting each other's ideas down when they had absolute confidence in their own results, which actually seemed to work out this time, I'm pretty sure, most of the time. the only time I think my aunt ever vetoed a response without properly without us checking through would be basically the long maths question they have sometimes now. This time it was a case of, pipe A can fill a swimming pool in 6 hours, pipe B can fill the same swimming pool in 4 hours, working alone, that is. And how long would it take with the two pipes working together? So, at this point, I lost my pen privileges, I think. So I worked out something that vaguely amounted to 2.5 hours, as an estimation from what, based on what my dad was also saying. And then my aunt just wrote 2 hours. Yours was 2.4 hours, apparently. Because my dad was still working out it was definitely somewhere around 2 hours, but like how much of a frame would it be? Because he was going down to the fractions that I wasn't able to write down, so I let him get on with it. But yeah, I guess to my aunt's credit, it was right before we swapped for marking purposes, so maybe she would have been a little bit rushed, but I reckon if we put something like 2.2 hours or 2 hours 15 or something like that, we would have gotten some credit for that. I have to imagine. But yeah, food and drink. All I remember is that my mum got the watermelon question right. How much percentage of a watermelon's weight is water? Whether it counts the outside or not is, I guess, never responded to, but the answer they were looking for was 92, that's what we got, so there you go. Watermelons, 92% water, which I guess explains their name. There you go. It's like they say, our team may be separated, we're better if we were joint, but we've got watermelons to score a point. I don't know if anyone remembers the watermelons meme. That was like a Vine thing from ages ago. Anyway, that aside, what was I saying? Yeah, I don't remember much else about the food and drink round. Because the thing is, some of the time, for sports and food and drink ones, because I know they're not my expertise, I'm focusing on the dingbats. There was one dingbat that I was, that I was kicking myself about afterwards. Although, in fairness, it was sort of framed a little bit strangely. So it was one where it said, there were 2 squares. One of them was grayed out and had the word horse along the perimeter of it, in 4 different places. And then you also had, in the middle of them, there was a smaller square that was white, and it had the words soldier written a bunch of times in a scattered fashion, just stuffed inside. And the thing is that it seemed like from how it was phrased that there were 4 horses surrounding the soldiers, right? Because that seemed to be how it was placed. Not like there was one big conglomerate soldier entity inside the square. But it turns out it was 1 horse. The grey square was supposed to be the horse, and therefore the answer was Trojan horse. Yeah. Well, but when I finally get a Greek mythology question, or an instance, I fumble the bag. There you go. Anyway, that's. But I guess we all sort of unanimously agreed that the 4 horses were, a little bit of a cruel comparison. Or not comparison, but a cruel inclusion. So there'd be 1 horse at the top there, maybe. So yeah, and then a few other ones that we was just sort of off by a few phrases and terms. We were given some grace in a few of them, and then eventually the scores were on the doors. And like I said, there were only 8 groups this time, so. The ones that we marked, I recognized their name, and I said, oh yeah, these ones, they're good. They consistently rank among the top 5, if not top 3. And yeah, so, but the actual scores, I believe that we got a total of 40 points. No, not 40 points. Sorry, no, 40 and a half was like the was the group that came 8th place, who's never forgotten. There was another group that had like 42 or something. I think we had like 48, I believe, and that gave us, unfortunately, our lowest ranking for quite some time, 6th place. Yeah. Not our finest hour. And in terms of... what was I going to say? And in terms of... you know, we actually... The group that got 5th place beat us by half a point. First to 48.5. And then afterwards, the one that came, like, 4th was 49. At which point the host then said, oh yes, now it's top 3, all in the 50s. It's like, well, yes, the last group was 49. I imagine they'd all be in the 50s, but please continue. And the group that normally wins, they actually came 2nd with 52 points. And the winners with 55 points were the team that we marked that I said consistently get top scores, or high scores. So yeah, as it turns out, our other rivals ended up taking the crown this time. I think that group have also been the ones to beat the usual group more times than we have when they're around. I think we have beaten them once when they came 3rd and we won. Maybe they came 3rd and we came 2nd, I'm not entirely sure. Sometimes they don't get the top marks. But yeah, I think more consistently that group has, you know, exceeded them, which does mean, you know, now that I think about it, I keep forgetting about them because the other group is so infamous in the quiz. But yeah, they're ones to watch out for as well. Just because they had them right behind us. Who knows? They could have heard me say penalty shootout too loudly. You never know. No, but seriously, they did pretty well, like, all round, so can't fault them on that. So yeah, that was the quiz aspect of things. But also, the other thing to talk about is what happened with the Panto auditions. Because there was some confusion. I think for some people, if I went off on a tangent, my other aunt did say that that she ended up tuning out when I talked about other stuff and then didn't come back to hear the results. But there were no results in that video because I hadn't actually gone to the audition yet. But now that I have, how did things turn out? Well, if you think one colossal failure was enough for 1 week, then yeah, behold what happened with the auditions. So I mentioned this briefly to some people who asked me how it went, but what I did in preparation was, you know, my method when it comes to auditioning for, you know, like voice acting stuff, for example, and that's usually to go for everything that is available that I think I can cover to help maximize my chances of getting something. And for the record, based on who was there, I do reckon I will probably get something. But I don't know. Who's to say, really? The director is to say, and she's still working on deliberating. But that's only if you know, the Sunday group didn't you know, topple me over, because they very much could have done that. Maybe won't get anything after all. Because what happened was, to distinguish those, it is similar to voice acting. To distinguish the characters, I always come with like different voices, and in the case of the Panto auditions, I've also used costumes and props. So I had my usual tailcoat and top hat for the ringmaster, and I came prepared with a voice to do, and everything. So I had that for like most of the others. You know, I did my impression of Chuckle for the clown, or the future clown. The character becomes a clown in the show. That's like his ambition. But yeah, etc. You just to show, the versatility, and partly also because there's always one character who dons a disguise that has to pretend to be somebody else. So being able to do different voices also like really helps there, because the actor who did that last year, who played the beggar and also the landlord, who were the same person in disguise, he varied up his accent. In fact, he even made a joke about varying up his accent in the show that wasn't in the script, so that he could actually distinguish himself there. I don't know how well that ruse actually worked. His entire face was obscured. It was meant to be a twist. The character in disguise in this play, that he's disguised. That's the whole point. But I just thought, we're great to show. I had another adventurous voice prepared already. My impression of Wygor from the Uprooted campaign. I had that all ready to go. But, there's one thing to prepare for something, and then there's another thing to see what actually happens. So, with that in mind, what actually happened? Well, to start off with, the reason that I went to that Tuesday audition, was it? Yeah, it was Tuesday. Was because... So I know the wind is terrible right now. Gonna cross in a moment. Yeah. So it was Tuesday that went. The reason I went to that one is because I messaged the director, because everyone had to message the director to get the audition pack. I think that was like an extra hurdle to make sure that the director knew who was coming, even though we were told to sign a form with our names and stuff anyway. Once we actually got there, so what the heck. But anyway, the reason I went to that one is because apparently the director said to me in my correspondence with her that the dance instructor who was there for the dancing auditions was only there on that Tuesday, not the Sunday. So Sunday it was a bit more of a lower key day, apparently. So with that in mind, I thought, well, okay. I mean, I'm gonna if I'm going for one of the bigger roles, I just show that I can actually follow along with some dances or something. So we did the dance audition as the first part of the audition, which I personally, I think last year we did them last, which works way better, because there's not much to say about like that one other than it's we did a routine to. I've got to say this. It was Dancing Queen. We did the routine to. And it was a case of you simply like copying the person. And my biggest struggle in that one was sometimes starting with like the wrong arm or leg, or alternatively just seeing the instructor, because even though I was at the back and I was because I'm a tall person, I thought we'll go there. In fact, someone actually made a comment like, oh yeah, all the men are going back. It's like, but yeah, we're tall, obviously. So no way we're trying not to be seen, as that's kind of impossible. But anyway, the problem was, I guess, like there were so many people in front to like stretch over to see to see what she was actually doing sometimes. But yeah, once that was all sorted, whatever. But then after that, of course, we were naturally, a little bit worn out. We didn't do much of a warm up, actually. That's another thing. So yeah, a little bit of exhaustion going on. So then naturally, around that time when we are of course slightly out of breath from just doing a dance audition, naturally that is the perfect time to start singing. So I reckon what everyone else did was, they're gonna, the person she asked volunteers to go first with the song, because we did a little bit of like a group practice basically. Not like I had much practice with this song particularly, but I was able to do it because I'd refined the night before. But yeah, she went around listening to everyone and what they were and in a group, and then also recorded us individually. So yeah, having not sat down for long, or not enough, having listened to this too with with a tired voice. Then she calls on people individually to go like, okay, so is there anyone who would like to go first? Now, if you know me in those situations, you can probably tell where this story is going. So I know that I volunteer for quite a number of things. I think I get that from my mum, who went to one PTA meeting and came back as the chair one time, but, that's another story. In my case, what I have learnt to do sort of automatically now is, I do like to, reserve my performances to a more memorable moment, right? Although I guess it's recorded, so it doesn't really matter this time. But if no one else volunteers at any point, then, because of that, as a show of enthusiasm or commitment, that's when I volunteer. So given that we had just all sung as a group, after dancing, without much time to drink water in general, guess which idiot put his hand up? Yay! So, but it gets worse, and in ways that I was not familiar with at the time. I would not know about. So I say sometimes in voice acting, that advice I got from CDog VA, from watching some of his videos, is if you're going to do a character voice, make sure you can emote in that voice in every possible way you can think of. You don't want to be caught off guard by a serious scene or a frightful scene or a somber scene if you're just constantly like, aha, yes, it's me, whatever. You want to be able to vary that up. You want to know how to control that and make it still sound like the same character. So, and for me, that includes singing. So I asked which characters out of the ones that I put down on my list would be ones that have singing roles. Even though it said somewhat in the listing, I just wanted to check. So the one that was said was the ringmaster. This guy. So I, of course, in order to help with that, because he's the main singer out of that bunch or whatever, I then performed the song in that character voice. So instead of being like, it's all about you, it's all about you, baby, it was more of like, it's all about you, it's all about you, baby, and then finished off with it's all about you. I was in full costume there, making sure I was clear that, yeah, this is what it would hopefully sound like. So yeah, then everyone else kind of went. There's also someone who did a different higher key that actually one of the sound engineer from last year had just cooked up. Last time I was the one who was asked to do that because I mentioned I could do it, but yeah, obviously if there isn't, yeah, it makes sense. So yeah, she worked it out. She did a different one as long as everyone knew. They were good to go. Lots of auditions for Baby Bear, as I mentioned before. There's Goldilocks for 3 Bears that we're doing. So yeah, a lot of focus on. I think Baby Bear has a few singing moments, a brief one from what I heard. I don't know. But yeah, then everyone else kind of did their things. Most people did an individual thing. Apparently, it was optional. There was one guy who I won't name, obviously. Apparently, he just became the singer in a band that he just joined because he didn't have a room for a bass or guitar player, which is something he also does. But I guess he just didn't feel like it. But there you go. But yeah, most people did. And yeah, after that, it was time to do the acting part, where basically we similar thing to last year. where we're told which scenes we were going to be auditioning with, and like what to actually and you know, like who we were replaying in like the moments and swapping them around, because some people were going for multiple different characters, like myself. Although actually, before we got to the adult auditions and standing up and such, like I said, there are lots of Baby Bear auditions. So for all of them, they got them like all in a circle, and then had a few people like swap in and read for Mother Bear and Father Bear, including me. So I came up with the most ursine voice I could think of in the moment. You know, do you have a problem with bears, or something like that? I don't know. Did put that one down the list, but there you go. Not like I've ever received a character that I didn't audition for in these pantos before. That's never happened, has it? Anyway. So yeah, then like every now and then they do like a swap of like who was like Baby Bear. They kind of went around a circle, did a few lines each and whatever. Not recorded this time, so hope that the director actually, you know, got what she wanted from particular candidates. Now I think about it. But yeah, then when it came time to do the adult auditions, it was almost like a case of like, well, yeah, we started like saying, oh yeah, can we read through like this character or something? It's like, wait a minute, read? Are we just reading like in like we were like 2 rows of chairs, like one on one side of the wall, one on the other. I was like, no, we can't have this. So then she said like, are we just reading? Just to check. I just asked the director, we're just reading right now. We actually like standing up and doing things. She said she would rather doing it standing up. Oh, fantastic. Full costume, into the center of the room I went. So that then, you know, I guess I would say set the precedent, but then it returned the precedent back to what it was last year of, you know, being like in the moment and such. And I, you know, got round to most of the characters that I was doing. There was at one point, this is where again things start to go wrong for me. Remember how I said before that the song audition was recorded and everything? I did like the character voice. Well, I was in the middle of the scene of doing the character voice and introducing the whole pantomime in this form and everything, and then the director stops me and says that that character's actually a lot younger, so I gotta do my normal voice. Which I then did, trying to keep the energy of it, because I'd, you know, in my head was matched to like that same voice, but you know, I was taught in drama school I'm a very cerebral actor, so that's a good exercise in me to, I guess, you know, trust my instincts a bit more. So yeah, I did my best to like, keep it up, but there was like one other scene where I also played the same character again, where I felt like I dropped it a little bit more than I would normally do. Ironically enough, the same thing I said to about Gacha Apex back in the day, in terms of like his regular voice was you know, less expressive for teen Agatha than it was for child Agatha in the prequel series, because that was more of like a, I guess I'd more like embodied like that kind of thing. I guess I sort of like internalized that myself over the years, of letting the voice kind of like guide the performance a bit. So I had to reset after that. So yeah, I mean, you know, a bit of a challenge, but sure, fair enough. That was my first choice character, so I have to get used to speaking as myself again and not actually getting to use one of the character voices if I do end up landing that role. But moreover, do I think I'll land that role anyway? I'm not sure anymore. Because, remember how I said I did the recording of the character's voice for the singing audition? So now the only record of my singing that director has, unless she came to the pantomime last year, which admittedly is possible, is that voice. So assuming that for a second that she missed it or whatever, my performance last year, she's going to have no idea about what I normally sound like, and therefore isn't going to be able to judge it properly. So that singing role, I might have I might have tanked completely unintentionally. And then at the very end, there's a, I said there's a character who was like in a disguise, and I had prepared like a voice of like, oh yes, my name is Weigon. But yeah. Well, when we got to the final scene and I was doing like that second line as that character, I wanted to say, oh, I haven't done... The director said, in case anyone's forgotten anyone, make sure to tell her they want to do this character so we can actually do this. And admittedly, this is right at the end, right? So I guess people want to go home. I get that. We did like the Baby Bear auditions first so the kids could go home earlier, for example, assuming that their parents weren't also auditioning, which was true for one of them. Wait, no, I think that parent also left, now I think about it. But yeah. Either way, I guess we all wanted to go home. So when I said I haven't done, disguised Marvin yet, or disguised Snibble is the name of the character, but Marvin is the mystic. Marvin the Mystic. She said to me, "Oh, don't worry, we got it." I was like, "What do you mean we got it?" No, I've got a whole different thing. I want to do something else. No, don't say that. And so yeah, that's but so then I just quickly scrambled into my most standoutish costume I had, which is a robe that is black on the outside and red on the inside, which is supposed to be an off-brand Hogwarts one, but that's got the logo on it. It's essentially the costume I had last year for Carnival that I got in Portugal. That was of Wizard Boy. So I used my Wizard Boy robe and just showed that off, and she was impressed by that. And then I quickly did this voice here to make sure it was remembered. And one of the other auditionees was also who has a real chance at Goldilocks, I think, actually. That seemed to really laugh at that one and really enjoy it. So, and she stayed around after that. I'm not sure if she's been fairly conversational with the dance instructors. I don't know if they're all friends or something. I don't know. Given that I've missed 2 performances of this theatre company, I'm not as in the inner circle as I would have hoped to have been by this point. But yeah, so the singing audition is virtually useless now for me, and the character that I was eventually looking forward to the most, I put down the Ringmaster as my first choice, but honestly I'd rather do the other character in the disguise and everything. I didn't get to really properly do. I think my best audition was probably the clown voice, but knowing what happened last time, if the clown voice is too overbearing, then I might have to tone that down as well. I'm not even sure anymore. So yeah, I'm not super hopeful this year. Like I said, I did what I could to virtually, guarantee I would get something. But given there were 2 days of auditions this time, maybe someone or several people, wowed her so much after that in the low-key version that's it. And then what does that leave me with? The advantage of having attended the dance. So, and that's not exactly my forte, and if it is something that I can physically do. So, I guess we'll see. You try to be a triple threat, and it turns out that you're the one that's threatened. How fitting. But yeah, that's all I can really say for right now. Speaking of singing, I'm going to try and finish the song for today, because it turns out that I've got a plan for something that might come out fairly recently. So I'm going to have to, refine those. Let's see. But for now, please leave a like or dislike, because your opinion matters. Subscribe if you haven't already. And on that note, until next time, farewell.